Hey team, Coach Alana here. As some of you know, in the month of January, I was doing a leadership training group with Josh Coates, who is on the John C. Maxwell team. For anyone in the Seattle area, he spoke at the October Super Saturday, and I believe he was down in California somewhere for the January one. Anyway, really cool guy, hosts several different trainings groups for coaches. His wife is a Beachbody coach, so he does a lot of training with coaches. I think he actually exclusively works with Beachbody coaches on advancing their businesses. So he's a great guy to talk to and learn from. Anyway, so I did this leadership training. It was basically broken down into 4 parts, his sort of 4 pillars, if you want to call it, of leadership. And those are, model, motivate, mentor, and multiply. So I'll kind of delve into each one a little bit here in just a minute. But I kind of wanted to talk to you guys first about some basic leadership things that he mentioned. Anyway, video is just going to be kind of an overview of my biggest takeaways from the trainings. Okay, so basically with that idea of the pillars of leadership is that if one of the bottom ones isn't happening, then all the others are going to collapse. So if you are not modeling the behaviors that you want your coaches to emulate, then you're not going to be able to motivate, mentor, or multiply them. Once that falls apart, then all the other ones are going to come crashing down. So they pretty much, you've got to start and work your way up to have it be a successful system. As a leader, he talked about focusing, we always talk about our personal development, and personal development is how we personally gain motivation and learn new things for our own businesses. But something else that a leader should also be focusing on is leadership development. It's a different thing. It's learning about how to motivate other people and learning how to better lead other people. Basically, personal development is going to be what motivates you. Leadership development is going to be what helps you to motivate and help others. And basically, everyone is different. Everyone has a different reason for coming to this business. And the most important thing is really finding out your coach's why in order to be a leader. I know we talk about the why all the time, but if you aren't getting down to that really deep why of why they're a coach, what it means to them in their life, if they can build this business or improve their fitness or whatnot, then you're more than helping them, you're manipulating them. If you don't know their why, then you're manipulating them into what you want for them, and not what they truly want. So, it's really important that you're finding out that why, because as I'm sure a lot of you have heard, we have to always help others reach their goals not before we can reach our own, but in order to reach our own, we need to help others reach their goals. And we really, in this business, can't reach our own goals if we're not helping others to reach theirs. So a couple of things of what a leader isn't. A leader is not a corner office manager, so not someone who's, sitting up in the high office way above everyone else, taking all the credit, not doing any work. A leader is not an open door policy manager, so not someone who says, oh yeah, I'm here for you whenever, and then never responds to a message, never answers questions, isn't showing up for their coaches. A leader does not have to be someone with a really charismatic personality. As I know a lot of us on the team, we joke that we're all a little bit more of some introverts on this team. So a leader does not have to be someone who is super outgoing and super charismatic. You can still be a leader if you are a little bit more of an introvert. Another thing that a leader is not is a master of answers. Yes, obviously as a leader, you're going to have some answers over a newer coach, but never think that you know everything and that you're beyond learning new things. Okay, so a couple things that a leader is. A leader is a servant. You're there to help others, as I mentioned, help others reach their goals. So you're there to lead them and do that with them. A leader is someone who's going to seek others out. You should always be looking for people who have common interests with you, people who might benefit from this opportunity, whether it's through the business or through fitness, always seeking others that they can help. And a leader asks questions. You should always be asking questions of everyone, really, not just your coaches, but of your clients as well. The best way to help anyone is to find out what they need, and you're only going to get there by asking questions and keeping, just continuing to ask questions all the time. All right, so then something else that he talked about is the law of the lid, which is something that I believe is mentioned in some John C. Maxwell books or a book. So some of you might be familiar with that, but basically the idea is that you are never going to succeed beyond your level of leadership. So, if you're not the best leader, you're never going to find leaders who are better than you, really. They're not going to be attracted to you as a lower leader because they'll recognize that they are a higher level of leadership than you. It's called the law of respect, basically, that people will naturally follow leaders greater than themselves. And you can work really hard, but if you're not upping your level of leadership, then ultimately you're not going to be successful in the long run. So in order to really be successful is obviously to have a great work ethic, but to learn to up your levels of leadership. He talked about it sort of in a pyramid with, at the bottom you've got your 1 and 2 level leaders. They're at the bottom. So a 1 or 2 level leader isn't really going to attract anyone probably. Above them is your 3 and 4 level leaders. They're going to attract 1 and 2 level leaders. So sometimes, when people or coaches will have a couple people on their team, and then those people aren't really doing anything and not becoming leaders themselves, and they don't know why. Well, it's because if you're only at a 3 or 4, then you're attracting 1s and 2s, and 1s and 2s aren't attracting anyone. So then as you up your leadership, 5, 6, 7 range, then you're attracting some 3 and 4 leaders who are attracting some 1s and 2s. As you go even higher to the, 8, 9, 10 range, that's when you're really attracting even higher levels of leaders who are, in turn, like I said, it's kind of a pyramid, if that makes sense, as far as, who you're going to be attracting. So when you can up your level of leadership, that's when you're really going to start attracting other leaders to your team. All right. So the first thing that I mentioned was modeling. Modeling is pretty straightforward. I mean, it's exactly what it sounds. Modeling is doing what you should be doing, what you would want your coaches to be doing. For us, as Beachbody coaches, that's doing the 3 vital behaviors, that's hitting Success Club, that's adding new coaches to our team, that's rank advancing. Basically the idea with modeling is to sit down every single day and ask yourself, if my coaches on my team did what I did today, would they be successful? And if the answer is yes, then great, you're doing modeling. If it's no, or maybe, or I'm not sure, then maybe you need to be working, on yourself a little bit more before you're ready to really step up and be a leader. Okay, so that's, pretty straightforward. Next, we're going to talk about motivating. So first is modeling. Your next level up as a leader is motivating. In order to motivate, you should share with your team a vision. Obviously, everyone has a different why for this business, but we all have somewhat of a similar vision as far as how we want, helping people and, all of that. So come up with a vision for your team, basically like a vision statement for your team. And this can be a collaborative effort that you can get some input from some other coaches on your team. But vision basically is the difference between people acting out of integrity and acting with purpose, and then just going around acting like a robot. Like when people have vision and they know, what the goal of the team is and why you're all there doing what you're doing, then they're going to be acting with purpose. Whereas if they don't really know what the vision is, they're just going to be going through the motions maybe and doing the stuff that they need to do, but without real integrity or purpose. So, with motivating, you want to think of the 80-20 rule of business. Basically, that 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your people. So I'm going to bring this up again in a little bit, but your focus should really be on those 80%, or I'm sorry, on the 20% that are creating their results, and not the 80% who aren't. Not that you're going to ignore them completely, but I'll get into that a little bit in a little bit. Anyway, so the best way to motivate for one is you have to be a motivating and positive person. You can't really come into your team page and spew a bunch of negativity and then expect your team to be motivated, right? I mean, that's pretty straightforward. I would think we all know that. Another way to motivate people is, again, being a master of asking questions, getting down to people's whys so that you know how to motivate them and what they're working towards. I mean, if you don't know why to motivate someone, then it's going to be a lot harder. All right, next, once you go beyond motivating, your next step is going to be mentoring people. So we can't mentor everyone. That's really what it comes down to, is you just can't mentor everyone. So focus your time on the people who are worth the time. Basically, if you try and mentor everyone, you're going to end up not really helping anyone. If you're trying to help every single person on your team, you're going to be spending so much time helping everyone that you're not really going to help anyone. So focus on a small number of people and then help them get to the level that you're at or succeeding higher beyond where you are. Again, so back to that 80-20 rule. So think of it like this. The 80% of your team who's not really showing up regularly, maybe not doing the vitals all the time, not creating a lot of results, you want to motivate them. You can be there to motivate them by, being in the team page and being active and, tagging them in posts maybe or something like that. You can be there for those 80% motivating. The 20% who are creating results, those are the people you want to spend the time to mentor. Again, if you try and mentor everyone, all 100% of the people, then those 20% who are really worth your time aren't going to get as much of your time and not maybe succeed as much or as quickly as they could if they were getting some full mentoring from you. So basically, here's like a good couple of things that you can look for when you're thinking about who to mentor. One is productivity. Obviously, that's like how well they're doing. Of course, to start off, people who are hitting Success Club and signing new coaches are going to be people you probably want to mentor, but that's not the most important thing, because there are going to be coaches on your team who are doing the things that they need to do and maybe not creating as much productivity as someone else, but it doesn't mean that they're not worth your time. So the next one, and probably the most important one, is their activity level, as I just kind of mentioned. So productivity is important. Sorry, I have notes and my screen just blacked out. Anyway, so productivity is important, of course, to see what they're doing, but activity level is really what's the most important, because again, you're going to have people who, someone who's actually doing the work is someone that's worth spending time on as opposed to someone else who isn't. Another thing to think about is if they're a positive attitude, is this someone who's going to add or take away from your life? Is this someone that you can stand to spend some extra time talking to and mentoring with? I mean, that is important. Hopefully you're bringing people to your team that you have things in common with and that you want, or either know already or you want to get to know them and stuff. But, maybe it's not always the case. Maybe you have people who are just a little bit harder to work with. So, think about if this is someone who you really do want to spend some extra time with. So always think about adding value to someone's life before you ask value of them. Explain to them that you want to help them, you're there to help them, to mentor them, but, have them realize and let them know that you are going to ask a bit more of them. If you are taking the time to mentor them, you're going to ask that they work a little harder. And again, help them get to where they want to go, not where you want them to go. And that's going to be different for everyone. Just because a coach is content with being, maybe just an emerald and earning X amount every month doesn't mean that they're not worth mentoring, Don't only focus on the people who have, bigger, loftier goals. So when you're mentoring someone, you want to help them set up short and long-term goals. Obviously the short-term goals are going to be stepping stones to the long-term goals. And then once you've set those goals, you can help them come up with, a plan, a daily plan of what they can do, basically reverse engineering those goals of how they're going to get there, how they're going to hit those goals. And then once you've done that, you can set them up with either some daily or weekly accountability. It's really up to you of what's going to work for you and that coach of how often, you're going to be checking in with them. So if you do this with someone and they're not doing the activities that you set up, following the plan, ask them, say, hey, is this still what you want? These are the goals that you shared with me, and I really want to help you get there, but are those still the goals that you want to work towards? And if they say yes, I've been, I just had these things going on and I am still committed and I want to do this, great, help them out again, continue to mentor them. Hopefully from there things are fine. If it's not, and you're checking again and they're still not doing the things that they, set up that they told you they were going to be doing, then it's time to kind of let them go. As I mentioned, we cannot mentor everyone, and you want to save your time for someone else who's maybe more worth the effort, who's going to actually put in the work and put in the time, just like you are to mentor that person. Because, nothing's worse than putting in a bunch of your own time to mentor someone, and then they're not, giving it back. So it's really not helpful for anyone. And just know, too, that at first mentoring might be a little hard, if you're a newer leader, but it is going to get easier. The more people you mentor, the easier it's going to get. Realize that leadership never adds, it multiplies. So, in mentoring them, you're teaching them to be a leader like you. You're teaching them to multiply and do the behaviors that you do that have led you to be a leader. There's two sides of mentoring. One is sharing your own experience. So, helping them by sharing what you've been through to, hopefully keep them from making some of the mistakes you've made. But also the other side of it is drawing out of them, some of their own experiences, maybe from whatever other jobs or things that they've had that are going to help. Because ultimately we all, again, we've all come from this from a different place. Your experience maybe isn't going to be as useful to them as maybe some other experiences that I've had in the past. So, help draw that out of them. Okay, so then the final thing is multiplying. This is getting a lot longer than I had intended it to be, so sorry guys. I wanted to share this quote with you guys I wrote down. It says, "Few things help an individual more than to place responsibility on him and let him know you trust him." So, what that means is obviously, I think we all know what that feels like, is when someone, who's higher up from you, a boss or, a mentor or whoever, places responsibility on you, you feel honored, you feel happy that they chose you and saw something in you that they could trust and place this responsibility on you, and you're going to step up, hopefully, and take it on. And so, by placing trust in our coaches and, delegating tasks to them and whatnot, it's going to help build them up as a leader. really in life, like, we're naturally trained to be followers, not leaders. I mean, some people have more of a leadership mentality, just in their personality, but think about when we're kids in school, for example, we're taught to, there's the teacher, the teacher's the leader, they know everything, they're standing up there telling us what to do, and we have to ask permission from our teacher, and, they have all the answers, and it's, maybe in later years getting into high school and college when you can actually have more of a discussion type thing with teachers and throw out some of your own ideas. But as a kid, you're taught to just be a follower and follow this teacher who's the leader. So we're, it's kind of ingrained in us from a young age to be a follower. So to be a leader is something that we all need to learn. It's a skill that we all have to acquire and work on. So know that, none of your coaches, unless they have prior leadership training coming to this, are going to be, tip-top leaders right from the get-go. So a really great way to multiply your leadership is to form an inner circle of coaches. And this doesn't necessarily have to be only the coaches that you're mentoring. This could also be some new coaches that are coming to your team that show promise. And with this inner circle, share things, bounce ideas off one another, discuss new ideas for challenge groups, or have them help you run some challenge groups, ask for people's input on things, like respect, if they're offering up some constructive criticism or anything like that, take what they say and really learn from it, and include them in planning, implementing, and strategizing things on your team. When you can do this, then you're teaching your team to multiply, basically, because when you build these leaders up by creating this inner circle, then they're going to go off and do the same thing with their own teams because they saw what it was like, being with you as a leader. Sustained results happen when many leaders are raised up and the team collectively shares the responsibility and the praise. So that's kind of my final note on leaders, and I really like that idea of like having some shared responsibility. Obviously not with everyone. Again, not everyone on the team is going to be ready to take on that responsibility, but sharing that with those coaches who are ready for it, and that's how you're creating new leaders on your team. I think we've all seen it in the Epic Dream Team, obviously, is with other coaches stepping in and hosting trainings and whatnot. It's the same things that you can start emulating with your own team to start building some new leaders. So I hope this is helpful for you guys. I highly recommend Josh's training. These were just like some of my bullet points from all the trainings that we did. So by all means, there's still plenty of information that you could gain from doing his leadership training. He also has an art of recruiting training that I believe is new. I think his first one is this month or something like that. So it might be a good one for you as well. So I hope this video was helpful to some of you, and if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. All right, have a good one.